Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says all those found culpable in PNID contract scandal will be prosecuted. Bandits kill at least 8 persons in 5 local government areas of Kogi State, as Governor Nasser El-Rufai describes the killings as sheer evil. Interpol arrests 2 Nigerians for alleged complicity in a €14.7 million COVID-19 kit scam against a German company. And angry protesters defy heavy security restrictions again in new protests against Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko. Plus, we have sports stories. Nigeria seems to have an appreciable level of confidence of its chances of winning its huge challenge in the €10 billion fine handed to the country by a UK court over the failed PNID oil contract. The Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, who featured on our program Sunday Politics, says preliminary investigations indicates high-level exchange of money, resulting in compromise of the transaction process and sabotage of public interest. Mr. Malami also promised to ensure that those found culpable will be prosecuted.
At the local level, some of the principal characters were being investigated. Some were not only investigated but were arraigned, and then there were certain convictions that were recorded. And again, within the official cycle of government, there are those, some retired, some perhaps, I'm not sure whether there are some that are serving, but there are some that have retired out of the system that were as well alleged to have indeed been involved in underhand dealings as it relates to an amount within the region of around $301 million. There were indeed arraignments, there were investigations, convictions, and indeed money were established to have changed hands as being the basis for inducement that eventually resulted into compromises on processes, compromises on procedure, and then a failure on the part of officials of government to do the needful in terms of ensuring at the end of the day that the interest of the nation is very well and effectively protected. One thing I can assure you, that the investigations are elaborate, the investigations are extensive, and all insinuations arising from the investigations will be adequately investigated, will be adequately looked into, and at the end of the day, if proof exists of any breaches, either financial or otherwise, other compromises on processes and procedure or otherwise, certainly we will do the needful in terms of ensuring the interest of the nation is adequately protected, in terms of ensuring that there are indeed consequences for wrongdoings.
On the lessons learned from the PNID case going forward, the Attorney General of the Federation strongly believes officials have taken the system for granted and have placed their personal interests above personal ones. Mr. Malami therefore called for the strengthening of the public system while calling for the introduction of stiffer penalties to deter future recurrence of breaching public trust.
The clear lesson is that the officials of government have over time been taking the system for granted, advancing their personal interests as over and above the public interest. And the greatest lesson is that we have now evolved a policy under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, whereby there should naturally be consequences for wrongdoing, and the consequences are indeed enforced in cases of breach. And we have to put our house in order in ensuring that the public interest prevails over and above individual interests, and that is the greatest lesson we have to learn to ensure at the end of the day processes and procedures are allowed to run their natural course within the context of the law and within the context of administrative process.
Now, the Attorney General of the Federation also debunked speculations that the federal government was slow in responding to the PNID matter. He explained that the case is a three-leg victory.
This is the third leg victory and not first leg victory. The first victory we have recorded as far as this case is concerned is that of obtaining a stay of execution order. The second victory we have succeeded in recording as far as this case is concerned is a changing or perhaps variation of the order for cash deposit of 200 million naira. The third victory which we have recorded is the order of the court allowing us to reopen the case after over perhaps 6 years, which is unprecedented. So if indeed I am to correct that impression, it is indeed a fourth series of victories recorded by the Office of the Attorney General within a span of 6 years.
Let's turn our attention now to security, where no fewer than 8 persons have been reported killed by bandits across 5 local government areas of Kogi State. The local government areas are Kajuru, Chukun, Giwa, Kauru and Igabi. In Kajuru, the bandits invaded Buddha community this morning. They opened fire on residents and in the process killed 3 people, while many others sustained various degrees of injuries. Some unconfirmed number of persons were also said to have been abducted from their homes. The bandits in similar operations in Giwa and Chukun, Igabi and Kauru also killed 4 people and kidnapped some others. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, has condemned the recent attacks, describing the incidents as actions of criminality and sheer evil, which stands condemned by the government. The governor adds that he received briefs on the situations in Kidandan, Riga Chukun, Kayambana, Buruku general area and also Buda within the 5 local government areas listed, and condoled with families that lost their loved ones in the attacks. The statement explains that despite the recent attacks, the Kaduna State government will continue to work with security agencies in the ongoing operations against bandits being coordinated by the Defence Headquarters. In the meantime, the leadership of Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association in Kaduna State says it is ready to embrace peace with other ethnic groups in southern Kaduna as efforts continue to ensure peace returns to the area. The association made its position known at a peace summit held in Kafanchan in Jamal local government area of the state, where its leaders promised to expose all troublemakers and criminals in their midst and make them face the full wrath of the law. The state chairman of the group, Hassan Tuga, is also asking the federal and state governments to compensate victims of communal clashes in the area who had lost cows and other valuables to ameliorate their sufferings. He promised that the group will stop its members from allowing underage children from rearing cows in order to prevent further destruction of farm produce within the area. The Mieti Allah is also asking government to establish a community-based security committee with membership from all tribes. Staying with security matters, the Defence Headquarters says security agencies have been placed on red alert following reports that the Boko Haram insurgents were plotting to attack the nation's capital, Abuja. A statement by the military explains that the armed forces and other security agencies would ensure effective surveillance of the Federal Capital Territory and other states of the country. A security report from the Nigeria Customs Service had indicated that members of the Boko Haram terrorist group have flooded the FCT and were planning to carry out coordinated attacks on 5 identified locations. But the coordinator of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, assured Nigerians that preventive and preemptive intelligence was ongoing to thwart the plot. In the meantime, the Benue State Governor, Samuel Otom, says he will no longer keep quiet about national issues which have subjected the country to public criticism, particularly while the former acting chairman of the EFCC and the Minister of Justice are allegedly enmeshed in corruption allegations and the rising insecurity. Governor Otom, while speaking on Sunday at an expanded caucus meeting of the People's Democratic Party in Makurdi, wondered how indeed a bill that was killed in the 8th Assembly is smuggled and ready for passage without public hearing, just to ensure that the failed Ruga settlement plan was passed in the guise of the National Water Resources Bill.
When PDP was on the throne for 16 years, go and analyze what was in place. I appreciate that we're not perfect, but check the indices. Is it the economy? Is it security? Is it political freedom or whatever? Go and check yourself. How much was dollar sold when PDP was in power? And how much is dollar today? Even this Boko Haram they talk about, where was it? We heard about Buhari alone. But now we are talking about Abuja, the federal capital territory. Herdsmen crisis. Now they have taken over. Even in Abuja, I was there 3 weeks ago. My convoy with my siren and security had to stop for cattle to cross the road before I could proceed.
Away from security, more than 10 families living on Trinity Street in Akwakuma community in Owerri North local government area of Imo State are trapped in their homes following a landslide erosion that took over the street. The residents say the situation took a new dimension after a heavy downpour from last night till this morning. They're appealing to governments to come to their aid as a matter of urgency so they can have an access road to go to work, to feed and do other daily activities.
It's a Sunday morning and families living on Trinity Street in Akwakuma community in Owerri North local government area of Imo State have plans of going to church. But the road has been literally split into two. This is following a heavy downpour overnight, resulting in a devastating landslide, cutting off a major road and trapping over 10 families. Resorting to this makeshift ladder for easy passage is the best option. Some residents of the neighborhood who had premonitions abandoned their homes. Residents appeal for urgent help.
We have invited the government to come. The Commissioner of Environment has been here with his officials, and we have discussed with them. But unfortunately this morning, the little space we used to cross to go to church, go to work, have been washed away by the rain of last night.
We want the government to urgently, as a matter of urgency, come to our aid. As you can see, the occupants of this place cannot access their homes again, and they cannot come out. You see how they climb in and out of the gully before they can access their homes. Pregnant women are there. Sick ones are here. There's no way they can access hospital from this gully.
The state government says it is aware of this unfortunate incident and is seeking ways to address it urgently.
That particular erosion site is one of the ones the governor took to Abuja. You are aware that the governor spoke with our president last week. He was in Abuja, and we appealed to Mr. President. He did that on behalf of the state. We appealed to international donor agencies to come to our aid. We appealed to the ecological fund of the president's office to come to our aid.
Hopefully, a short-term measure to rescue the families trapped here will commence before a more comprehensive rehabilitation exercise so that residents can move with ease.
In part two, after the break, federal government launches Nigeria at 60 challenge to commemorate country's Diamond Jubilee celebration next month. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Police authorities and Interpol say they have arrested 2 suspects for their alleged complicity in a major multi-million euro COVID-19 scam. The suspects, Babatunde Adesoya, who is 50 years old and a master's degree holder in cell biology, alongside his partner Akimpelu Hassan Abbas, are said to be members of a sophisticated transnational criminal network which cloned the ILBN Holdings BV in Holland to transact with and defraud one Friar Frederick von Hahn, a representative of the German state of North Rhine-Westphalia. The German government had asked the federal government to investigate a fraudulent transaction on the procurement of COVID-19 personal protective equipment linked to a Nigerian-based bank account. The suspect and their Holland-based cohorts are set to specialize in identity theft, cyber stalking, cloning of corporate websites, among others, to defraud unsuspecting members of the public. The suspects are accused of fraudulently obtaining the sum of 1.5 million euros and another 880,000 euros as advance payment for the supply of COVID-19 PPEs valued at 14.7 million euros. Staying with the coronavirus pandemic, the federal government has given a breakdown of how it spent the 36.3 billion naira donations and funds received to fight the COVID-19 pandemic between April the 1st and July the 31st, 2020. This is in response to a letter by rights group Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, which asked the government to provide a breakdown of how the money was spent. The Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Ahmed Idris, says about 31 billion naira was spent within the set date, and it represents 84% of the total sum. A further breakdown of the expenditure reveals that the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 spent 22 billion naira, while the 36 states spent a total of 7 billion naira. Others include the Nigerian Air Force, which spent 877 million naira for deployment of assets in support of COVID-19 operations. The Nigeria Police Force spent 500 million naira on personal protective equipment, while about 18,000 naira was paid as bank charges. But the rights group alleges that the documents submitted do not contain other significant details as indicated in their FOI request, including details and a breakdown of the number of Nigerians who directly or indirectly have benefited from the spending, and details on plans to spend the balance of 5.9 billion naira in the COVID-19 eradication support account. Nigeria's COVID-19 fight just got a boost as the country will be receiving research and innovation support from the United Kingdom to respond to the threat posed by the virus. The UK government in a statement announced its continued support of vulnerable communities through the impact and challenges of COVID-19 with funding in areas of research and technology. According to the statement, the UK government has invested £7.2 million in 20 new research projects to provide healthcare to patients in remote parts of Nigeria, as well as mass vaccination capacity and protective equipment for refugees in other countries. King's College London will work with the University of Ibadan and other institutions in Africa to train healthcare workers across 20 health clinics, while the University of Bath in the UK, the University of Lagos, will also be leading a project to address the issue of limited COVID-19 testing capacities in Africa and rapid identification of COVID-19 hotspots. In Kogi State, Governor Kogi State is promising that ongoing capital projects in the state will not suffer the fate of abandonment despite the current economic effects of the pandemic. Governor Fahimi has been going around the state to inspect projects and prompt contractors to speed, having had needed appraisals done. For the governor, creativity in the face of paucity of funds has become imperative for any forward-looking government. Some of the projects under inspection include the ultra-modern King's Market Complex and the newly constructed model schools in Ado-Ekiti, water dams and treatment plant projects, dairy farm and renovated health centres across the state, among others.
Everything we promised our people, we're doing everything within our powers to deliver on them. In spite of the impact of COVID-19 on the resources of the state, you would recall that my mantra has always been we will not tolerate abandoned projects. Even projects that had been abandoned before we came into office, we are ensuring that these projects are completed. And projects that were abandoned, simply because we left office in 2014, we have actually completed all those projects. So this is just what we're about as a government. We make sure that we follow the vision of transformation that we have for Kogi State. We ensure that we deliver what we have promised our people. Resource limitation notwithstanding, we have to just be more creative.
The River State Governor Nyesom Wike has applauded the infrastructure development program of Kogi State Governor Bala Mohammed, calling on the people of the state to always support him. He was speaking during the inauguration of the construction of 11 roads in the state. Governor Wike, who was on a working visit to the state, says the invitation to perform the assignment is an honor, and the people of River State, because of the impact of the project on the life of the ordinary man. Our correspondent Hajara Aliyu reports.
Kogi State Governor Bala Mohammed receives Governor Nyesom Wike at the Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Airport, Bauchi. The August visitor is not here for political reasons, but on an official assignment to flag off the construction of township roads of about 10 kilometers and 20 kilometers associated stormwater drainage across 3 geopolitical zones of the state. First, he must pay homage on the Emir of Bauchi. The Emir is pleased with the caliber of guest.
The two of you are considered by many Nigerians as the perfect partners in progress. Indeed, you are working separately in your state and excelling to the admiration of your citizens.
Soon after, the guest of honor moves to perform the flagging of ceremony of 3.5 kilometers Gwangwangwang, Bakaro, Kofardumi, Malangoje, Mudalawal Market roads construction. The township roads are designed to open up Bauchi City and develop other parts of the state.
Our urban centers and historical towns like Bauchi, Azare, Ningi, Misau, and Jamari and Das have suffered long-term neglect over a long time. This administration is left with no other option than to rise up to the occasion and salvage the rottenness and decay that is bedeviling our towns, and thereby reversing the trend.
For Governor Wike, honoring the invitation is a privilege to be associated with good governance.
I can tell you, I'm very much happy and pleased with what he has done in this last 1 year in office. Like he said, in spite of the COVID, he is still carrying out projects.
As the visitor ends his assignments and leaves, Governor Bala Mohammed carries on with similar engagements, the official flagging off of 2.65-kilometer Bununu Township Road in Tafawa Balewa local government area. Hajira Aliyu, Channels Television News.
From Bauchi, we move to Sokoto, where the state government is encouraging residents of the state to be self-reliant as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to bite harder. The state government is also supporting them with the latest, that is investing 30 million naira to empower 186 female entrepreneurs in the state. Governor Aminu Tambawal explains that the money will be evenly distributed, with each businesswoman going home with 150,000 naira, while the bigger plan is to eventually train at least 9,000 women.
Today's occasion marks a step forward in the overall state government's economic development agenda and promoting entrepreneurship as a tool for economic growth and sustainable development. You'll agree with me that entrepreneurship has always been a foundation factor in improving standard of living and wealth creation, not only for entrepreneurs, but for related businesses. It is on this premise and I sincerely salute Hajiya Yasmin Hassan Kangiwa for her unrelenting effort in organizing this epoch-making event in the state. The effort will go a long way in boosting the commitment of our women entrepreneurs to engage into economically viable ventures and produce more with the guarantee that products can be marketed within and outside the state. At this juncture, permit me to draw your attention to our efforts through Ministry of Commerce and Industry towards revitalizing the economic sector in the state with a view to creating decent jobs to our teeming youth through strategic alliances and partnerships with various investors and local business community to establish modern industries in the state.
When the News at 10 returns, we'll look at the role of opinion polls in elections, and we'll be joined by data analyst Babajide Ogusanwo. Please join us again. Ahead of Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee celebration in October, the federal government has launched a challenge to allow Nigerians design the thematic and creative aspects of the event. The challenge will include selecting the best slogan, the best poem, and the best photograph that best embodies the theme together as one. The federal government says it wants to use this opportunity to harness the power of Nigeria's creative minds to make a new brand identity around the anniversary theme, which will be celebrated in the public space for 1 year. The top 3 finalists will present their work to President Muhammadu Buhari, and their work will be used to celebrate Nigeria's 60th anniversary, and also they will be getting a reward. And the federal government is planning to deliver humanitarian aid supplies by air to people in remote communities in parts of the northeast that have been affected by insurgency. Humanitarian Affairs Minister Sadia Omar Farouk says the Nigerian Air Force helicopters and planes will be used to drop the food supplies and items such as blankets. But the minister did not provide details of the number of people who are expected to benefit from it or the frequency of deliveries. The insurgency, which started since 2009, has killed around 35,000 people, forcing millions others to flee their home. Let's go to Edo State, where Governor Godwin Obaseki says he remains committed to peace and that no meaningful development can thrive in any society where there is none. Governor Obaseki made the comments during a solidarity rally in his honor at Esaka West local government area of the state.
Azama Primary Field is the place to be for members of the Uzaire community. Their excitement is evident from the dancers. This is a solidarity rally for the PDP flag bearers in the Edo State governorship election. The event unites the people, and party affiliation is no barrier. One of the community leaders, Suleiman Egele, says Governor Godwin Obaseki is on the right track and is worthy of a second term in office.
I make bold to say that you have brought prudence to governance. Your Excellency, you have brought transparency to governance. You have brought stability to governance.
Another community leader is the Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu. His message is directed at maintaining peace at all costs.
They are trying to provoke us. Don't be provoked. They said they are removing posters. We are not tired of pasting posters. If they remove it, we paste another one. But don't fight them. Reserve your energy for on the 19th of September. We will use our PVC to fight back. We use our PVC. If they are looking for physical fight, we'll say no, we'll use our PVC to fight. On the 19th,
we are better together, united.
Governor Basiki toes the same line, preaching on the values of a peaceful governorship environment.
When a family is united, there's nothing they cannot achieve. The way God designed Edo, we are the only state in this country where all of us in Edo State come from the same source. Because of that, our politics must not be one of division. We are better together, united.
While the PDP flag bearers go about their campaigns, they say they are also mindful of their status as leaders in the state, and promoting peace is one of their major responsibilities.
Is there an art or science to election polls in Nigeria? The governorship debate in Edo will hold next week, Sunday. How much influence will this have on potential voters? We have Babajide Ogunsanwo, data and information consultant, is here to share insights on the death of on pre and post debate polls in Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Millicent.
All right, there seems to be a positive polling in Nigeria. Is there any evidence as to why polling is not a major point of discussions, in terms of elections?
So I'd like to take it from three perspectives. The first is, we've always had polls in Nigeria. Here's what I mean. Elections are polls. They are preference polls. And so on election day, voters come out to pick the candidate that they prefer. That is a poll. What there's been a paucity of is those polls that happen before the election day polls. That is where we've seen a paucity. So the right question is, has there always been a dearth of polls? And the evidence shows no. Let's look at what happened 4 decades ago. I'm talking about the Second Republic, when Unilag even ran an election poll in 1979. And if we bring and we take a look at what had happened and the results of that poll in 1979, it had shared insights that if we are taking that poll seriously, we perhaps wouldn't be where we are today. So let's take a look at the Unilag poll of 1979. And when Unilag conducted a poll, then it was students of the mass communication department that conducted that poll. Here's what they found. They found that majority of Nigerians, especially the low-income earning Nigerians, could not recognize candidates that were on the ballot. That was one fact that showed in the poll of 1979, 4 decades ago. But did we take the poll seriously then? No, we didn't. The second fact was that there were most of the female respondents to the polls were not interested in politics. Did we take that poll seriously? No, we didn't. And so a poll that happened 4 decades ago still has relevance today. And that is, a lot of Nigerian women are not interested in politics, and a lot of low-income earning Nigerians really do not recognize their candidates. And that shows, especially when you ask a lot of Nigerians if they could name their councillors. A lot of Nigerians cannot name their councillors still today. A lot of Nigerians do not know who represents them at the State House of Assembly. So that is the fact. Now, the second question, or the third and final thing I'd like to talk about is, since we've first of all identified that, yes, elections are preference polls, the second thing we've shown is the challenge we have is the polls that happen before the elections, which is the public opinion polls. Now, the third and final thing I want to talk about is, why aren't we really polling, or why aren't we seeing those poll results that we normally will see from the UK and US? And the evidence today suggests three things. The first is a lot of the candidates have realized that elections in Nigeria are not just won by valid election results. Elections are influenced by 1, voter buying, 2, voter manipulation, and perhaps what is most dangerous and what we should focus on with the elections that are coming in the next 2 weeks is what is now called the original fake. Now, what do I mean by the original fake? We are now in a position in Nigeria where 2 election results, Form EC8A, B, C, D, those forms, the Form EC8 forms of INEC, we've seen in the court whereby 2 forms having the same security recognition and security patterns have different results. And so we're at the point where if we don't fight that, we'll have a problem where elections will have different results, even though the forms that are being used to account for the results are the original fakes.
I want to ask
so it's
about
hard to differentiate.
The accuracy of the polls. I mean, you talked about what happened 4 decades ago. I think it's quite different. A lot of women are interested in going into politics now. We have young people who are interested in listening and joining that. So what about the accuracy? We know the popularity vote gave Hillary Clinton the seat in 2016, but we know their method, their system there in the United States.
So here are 3 tricks about election polls that a lot of people don't focus on, and I'll share the 3 tricks of election polls. And whenever you see a poll, you compulsorily have to look at those 3 things. The first is we're looking at the margin of error. Every credible poll has to have a margin of error. So if you see any poll that gives victory to Hillary Clinton in 2016 or Donald Trump, we need to look at the margin of error. So we're looking at the elections in the US that will be coming up in some months. We need to look, if you're interested in that election, the first thing you need to look at is looking at the margin of error. So you normally see a small footprint of plus or minus 3% or plus or minus 4 or 5%. So that's the first thing. First out of 3 things, the margin of error. The second is the confidence interval. How much do those that organize the poll, how much confidence did they place in the poll when they were doing that? And in most times, election polls are usually between 90%, 95 or 99% confidence interval. And the third and final thing you should ask whenever you see a poll result is, what was the sample size? How many respondents did they reach, and exactly, and why did they really make sure that poll was random and it reached out to almost everybody? So those are the facts. But I should also.
I want to quickly ask you this. And this is apart from the probability of winning elections. What sorts of polls should leaders focus on?
The job approval rating is something that every leader should focus on. Recently, we've seen, and I'd like us to quickly look at that, the poll on when Nigerians were asked, will they want the petrol price subsidy to stay, or should the government remove the petrol price subsidy? And that poll, even though which spoke to a representative sample, a margin of error plus or minus 3%, it showed that majority of Nigerians, 53% of Nigerians said the government should not subsidize the price of petrol. 41% of Nigerians polled said the government should keep subsidizing the price of petrol, and only 6% said they don't know. So the general opinion of people is the subsidy should go. But I'd like to quickly share something about the subsidy, if we still have that time. The world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, has a net asset of $117 billion, an equivalent of 45 trillion naira, Millicent. The world's richest man has 45 trillion naira net assets. What it means is he could use his money, pause the federal government, and fund our budget for more than 5 years, only him. And so in such a situation, it allows us to understand that it is not, the right question isn't how much are we spending on fuel subsidy, it is how much money does the Nigerian government have left if it keeps subsidizing the price of petrol. In the final analysis, it's better to live in a world where we have unanswered questions than unquestioned answered.
I wish I had time to take you up on that, but thank you, Baba Jideogusa. Always a pleasure having you.
The pleasure is all mine, Millicent.
And now let's take you to the arts. Art Review tonight takes a look at the issues facing the female gender with this exhibition by Female Artists Association as they kick against sexual and gender violence in the nation's capital city, Abuja.
This is no ordinary art show. It's to raise awareness on sexual and gender-based violence put together by the Female Artists Association of Nigeria at the Nsibidi Art Gallery in Abuja. It is coming at a time when Nigeria and the rest of the world is contending with the coronavirus pandemic. This informs the use of face masks by the attendees.
Like today, we had to, we went by all the NCDC rules. We made sure everybody had their mask. Then we also we did the washing of hands and and we tried to do social distancing. So that's why we had two programs. We had one downstairs, and that's why we had exhibition in two different rooms. We had so that some people can stay in that room, some people stay in this room, then some people downstairs. We spaced it all out. So that's why we did it like that.
This exhibition is thematic. In thematic exhibition, that means it's an exhibition that has a theme. It is not broad-based. It's thematic, tilted towards a particular topic, that is dehumanization of the female gender, which has to do with rape in this case.
The exhibition showcases various works of art ranging from paintings, oil and canvas, sculptures and installations, all highlighting the brutality of rape and violence against women.
Today's exhibition is basically on gender equality, domestic violence, and rape, and all of that. So I decided to put up this, which is my work, and then you can see this is a crying girl who is already stripped and ruffled. This could be as a result of rape. It also signifies domestic violence. So I decided to put it up together as a piece to show the world the pain women go through as regards domestic violence, rape, or any other thing that affects a woman.
For the artists, exhibitions like this are important to discuss societal problems. But beyond the focus, which is condemning all forms of sexual violence, the COVID-19 has had tremendous impact on the art world, and now it's time for the creatives to think out of the box.
The presidency has been explaining the reasons for the removal of subsidy on petrol and electricity, noting that it is a move to stop the mismanagement of taxpayers' money and eliminate corruption associated with subsidies. The president's spokesperson, Mr. Garba Shehu, said in a statement that history will be kind to the president for removing the subsidy on the essential items. He explains that there is nothing new in the fact that the country is today fighting multiple challenges along with COVID-19, including low earnings, near collapse of the oil market, floods, threats of terrorism and banditry. But the challenges notwithstanding, a good government must take decisions for the people's good. He adds that the president took the decision to implement long-delayed reforms, withdraw and allow the market to determine their prices. Mr. Garba Shehu believes that in carrying out the reforms, the president needs the support and understanding of all citizens, inclusive of the opposition parties, the labor movement and civil society groups. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to depart the nation's capital, Abuja, for Niamey, Niger Republic, tomorrow to participate in the 57th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. The presidency said in a statement that the special report on COVID-19 will form part of discussions during the one-day summit and will be presented by President Buhari. Nigeria's president was appointed the ECOWAS champion on the fight against COVID-19 during the extraordinary virtual summit of ECOWAS on April 23rd, 2020. President Buhari is also expected to coordinate the sub-regional response against the pandemic, while the summit will also receive a special report on the ECOWAS single currency program, the 2020 interim report on activities of the sub-regional body, including ECOWAS Vision 2050. The alarming rise in incidents of terrorism, insurgency, armed banditry and piracy will also be discussed alongside the democratic process by the military in Mali. Now back to Edo State, where ahead of the governorship election, their youth are being asked to be wise enough to understand the antics of politicians who only seek their services for third grade during elections. Now the thought is one of those shared during Edo Praise, a prayer session held in Benin City, the Edo State capital, to enthrone peace in the state ahead of the polls.
The pursuit of peace in their beloved land is the common ground on which all assembled in this hall in Benin City, the Edo State capital, stand. The gathering comprises Christian and Islamic religious leaders, as well as some candidates in the forthcoming governorship election, one before God.
There's no one like you.
It's a time for admonitions and sharing of convictions.
If anybody asks you to go and fight or to go and carry a gun or something, always say to them, let your children lead us.
I believe come September 19, the election is not only going to be peaceful, but God will do His will.
It's also a place of prayers.
Lord, let your grace take control. At the end, Lord, the candidates will all come together, embrace each other, and see the victory as everyone's victory.
I will say, Allahumma anta salam. May God give them peace. Because if there is no peace that day, the INEC, they can't be able to do anything.
Technology is utilized well here, with guests joining in online.
There's no reason for any single drop of blood to be shed in Edo State. No election is worth it. Our blood is too valuable for that. Let there be peace. We have difference of opinion. It's not a difference in humanity.
To the international scene, in Belarus, thousands are defying a ban on protests to gather in the capital Minsk against President Alexander Lukashenko. Riot police have been using water cannon and barriers to seal off parts of the city, and a number of arrests have been made with reports of injuries. The protesters accuse authorities of rigging Lukashenko's re-election over a month ago, sparking deadly mass unrest. Riot police have intensified their efforts at intimidating and blocking the flow of people heading into the center of the city today, while detaining those taking part in the demonstrations. Ousted Malian leader Ibrahim Keita has left the country for medical treatment, just as talks about a transition back to civilian rule following a coup last month got off to a chaotic start. The 75-year-old has been in hospital since Tuesday last week, 6 days after he was released from detention by the ruling junta, which seized power August the 18th. His former chief of staff, Mamadou Camara, says he left on Saturday evening aboard a plane chartered by the United Arab Emirates at the request of the Mali junta. Keita's medical condition is unclear, but it is well known that he once had a benign tumor removed from his back in 2016. And sporting activities are making a gradual return across the world after a total lockdown of over 6 months due to the coronavirus pandemic. In Nigeria, however, non-contact sports have been approved to restart, but with strict adherence to the COVID-19 protocols. This special report takes a look at the level of compliance to the directive.
The Agege Stadium is quiet. The stands empty. The last time this pitch witnessed football action was March the 18th, no thanks to COVID-19. But there is hope. The Ministry for Youth and Sports Development has approved the return of non-contact sports on August 7th. This includes tennis, table tennis, squash, badminton, cycling, athletics, golf, polo, para-athletics and cricket. Let's take a look at the level of compliance. In Enugu and Niger states, activities are yet to pick. However, in Kwara, Imo and Bayelsa, the doors are opening to non-contact games.
It is a big relief to us, we at the sports industry. You know, our athletes, we have any program athletes, they have been eager to exercise themselves. You know, for them staying too long at home for almost about 5 to 6 months. If you see most of them now, they have to their weight.
Now, you know, because of the breakdown of work for a very long time, we have been managing to do it gradually, just little by little. Now that the government has also in Bayelsa have lifted the bans for works to come, so yeah, that is why you are seeing us in good number now.
Very soon the stadium will be open for sporting activities like athletics, all those sports that you don't have to get into close contact. The state is really putting all the necessary pins that are supposed to be in place.
Back in Lagos, with full compliance to the COVID-19 protocol, the Orchid Lekki Chess Club is leading the way with resumption of over-the-board chess.
We understand the rules and what you need to do. If you look around, you see sanitizers everywhere. We have washing areas everywhere, and then people are wearing their masks. All the basic precautions are taken.
Athletes and fans have missed sporting action, blame the pandemic, but with the approval of non-contact sports to return, the athletes are now getting their groove back.
Top seed Novak Djokovic has been disqualified from his US Open fourth-round match after accidentally hitting a ball at a line judge. He showed his frustration after losing serve to trio 6-5 against Spain's Pablo Carreño Buster. The Serbian world number one took a ball out of his pocket and hit it behind him, striking the female line judge in the throat. And the main news again, Nigeria's Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, today said that all those found culpable in the PNID contract scandal will be prosecuted. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Nwokam. Have a good night and a great week ahead. Stay safe.